Hi everyone, I'm Peyton Soysher from Rankings Right Now. We have finished week 3 of the college football season. We had an awesome day of college football. Even on Friday there were some good games, but really fun matchups. We had Georgia and Tennessee going on. We had a bunch of top 15, top 20 matchups that were going on, right? USF and Miami were going on. We had Notre Dame and Texas A&M that came to a crazy finish on a fourth down. We can go through all of these games now and let's dissect where the college football algorithm rankings that we have is going to put each of these teams after it's all said and done. We have some really interesting drops. We have some really interesting climb ups. Some teams are saying the same. Let's go ahead and go to rankingsrightnow.com and see exactly where the algorithm is predicting the AP poll is going to have each of these teams. So, if we go to www.rankingsrightnow.com, we're sponsored by Phantom Odds, a really cool fantasy football website for anyone who is into fantasy football. Go ahead and connect to all of your Yahoo, ESPN, and Sleeper leagues. It gives you essentially an odds machine for all of your fantasy matchups. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. But what we're interested in for this matchup, or I should say for the end of all the matchups, is where do all of the teams end up from the algorithm. Right now, I don't think this is actually going to happen, but it has Penn State over Ohio State. Well, why is that? Well, Ohio State played University of Ohio, which is a nobody, and Penn State played Villanova, which really is a nobody. Is 37-9 better than 52-6? I don't really think so. So here we are. I think that Penn State and Ohio State actually are not going to flip-flop out of the top, but let's take a closer look at Miami. Miami came out guns a-blazing today. With that being said, that matchup right there, I think, does a lot of really in this area over here. There's two things that really need to be addressed. One is the Florida loss to South Florida kind of shook up a little bit and said, oh, maybe South Florida really is this big, maybe there are the legitimate team down in Florida. Miami put that to rest real quick. So, with LSU beating Florida 20-10, which is an extremely tough environment down in Baton Rouge at night, LSU's legit. We're kind of in this weird moment where does the LSU over Florida win 20-10 mean that much when Florida got hit pretty hard by South Florida and South Florida got smoked by Miami? Where does that put everybody in this kind of, matchup machine, right? So when we look at this, it has Miami moving ahead of LSU. I think that's correct. That makes sense to me. So I think that really what we're going to see out of the top 4 is going to be Ohio State, Penn State, Miami, LSU. That makes the most sense to me. LSU wins at home, but I think Miami is really proving that they're running through everyone right now. So that's where I think the top 4 is going to be right now. Now let's look ahead over here. Oregon had a really breezy matchup with Northwestern. It was really it might have been even 34-0 if I remember it correctly. Those 14 points, according to the algorithm, might have hurt them a little bit. That 34-14 win doesn't really tell the full story, in my opinion. I think that was a much bigger win for Oregon. But if we look at where Georgia had it, Georgia on the road in Tennessee, that poor kicker for Tennessee had the chance. Man, having 20-year-olds kicking, what was it? Probably a 45, 50-yard field goal. That's just a tough situation. So with all that being said, right now the algorithm has Oregon falling in the rankings a little bit, and having Georgia slot up just because of the strength of schedule. Texas even really struggling with UTEP today. I wouldn't even be surprised if Texas maybe drops 1 or 2 down just because these voters might have just said, I'm not really feeling this Texas team right now. They don't really look like they have it. Arch Manning doesn't really look like he has it. Maybe Illinois even sneaks up 1 spot, right? They win 38-0 over Western Michigan. With all due respect to Western Michigan, everyone wins 38-0 at the beginning of the year to Western Michigan. So we'll see where that ends up. Now, the fun game of the night was the Notre Dame Texas A&M game. If for those of you who didn't see it, crazy ending to it. Notre Dame, or I should say Texas A&M, gets a 4th and goal with like 10 seconds left to take the lead. Notre Dame has to do like a crazy Hail Mary play. There was a bunch of botched plays right before it that led to that situation. But right now, with that win, Texas A&M is jumping over Notre Dame in the rankings in that, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 area. This matchup is going to be really, really interesting to see. Right now, the algorithm really likes Oklahoma moving up a bunch of spots. They played Temple. I'm surprised the algorithm liked them that much, right? Iowa State had a nice win, but do I think that it's really that much of a big difference if they play Arkansas State, right, on the road? And actually only won by 8. So, I think you might see Texas A&M maybe move up into that 10-11 range. I think that game on the road at night against Notre Dame is an enormous win. Quarterback looked great. Everything was really firing off. They put up a lot of points. I could see Notre Dame still hanging in there just because Texas A&M is a really good team. But you might see Notre Dame start to fall down a little bit. Now you have what we're really starting to be like kind of in these middle spots is Alabama, Utah, Texas, all moving up just because there's room because of Tennessee, South Carolina. That's why Vandy's up 15 spots into that 18 slot. Is Vandy legit now? South Carolina, everyone was really high on them. They looked real good to start the year. Vandy smacked them in the mouth. So, what was the final score of that game? 31-7. That's an enormous loss for South Carolina. I could see South Carolina being in the 23-24 range. Tennessee dropping 8's a little too harsh for me, especially since Tennessee essentially had that game won. I don't know if they drop 8. I could see them maybe dropping 5 to that 20 spot. So we have a little bit of question marks all in this 17-24 range, but Clemson losing on a walk-off field goal. South Florida getting absolutely crushed. I think they're for sure out of the top 25. Clemson now has 2 losses to start off the year. They played LSU to start off the year, which is really I give a tip of the cap, playing really tough competition for that. So Clemson losing on a walk-off field goal to unranked Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's still a good squad. King's a really good quarterback. I think that when you have that 24-21 loss, I could see them dropping to that 23, 24, 25 range. Down to all the way to 26 and looking out would be surprising, but maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. They would have had a lot more help if Vanderbilt didn't smoke South Carolina. That kind of pushes everyone down a little bit. So do I think Clemson's still going to be in the top 25? Maybe. It's kind of hard to have a 1 and 2 team in the top 25 with an unranked loss. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. I'm really curious on where Tennessee and South Carolina land. In my opinion, I would put Clemson ahead of South Carolina, even though Vanderbilt has, the SEC on its back. Do they have some nice wins? They had Alabama over last year. It's definitely a program that's really starting to gain some momentum, which is really exciting. Do I think that they're going to move all the way up to 18? No. Do I think maybe in the 20 range? Yeah, that seems about right. So in these early weeks, it's really hard because, we only have 3 games to really work off of. So the algorithm is taking all of the historical data of the first 3 weeks of all of the other seasons, which are usually a lot of blowouts. So this algorithm can get a little bit wavy in the early seasons, but still fun to go through, still fun to recap, and still fun to really analyze what exactly we think is going to be the top 25 and how that's going to roll in week to week. But fun games, fun day. I would be really surprised if we see South Carolina and Tennessee in that 23-24 range. If I am on the AP poll, South Carolina is out. Clemson probably is still in just because of their really tough loss to LSU early in the year. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I think that you are going to get Ohio State, Penn State, Miami, LSU, Georgia, Oregon as your top 6, though. That seems to make the most sense to me. They have the most resume. All of that comes together. Thanks for watching. We'll do this again every single week. We have a lot of fun here. Go to rankingsrightnow.com, create yourself a login, go ahead and play around with the what if simulation tool. It's all a bunch of fun. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.